Thank you very much. So our next talk is by two people. It's Harko and Hanneke, and they're going to talk about the lean startup implementation at Riscure. I asked Harko if I could introduce him as a real hacker. He says he's not a real hacker, but he knows a lot on security. So please welcome Harko and Hanneke on the stage for their talk on lean startup.
Yes, yeah, real hacker. I've been in information security for many years. Practiced it myself, attack systems. But there are people out there that do day and night hacking, working on security of systems, and really can't stop when they go home. I have a lot of colleagues like that. So in that sense, I'm not a real hacker, because when I go home, I do like to enjoy something else, which is surfing. And this is where 3 years ago, we found ourselves. And I've seen some more surf pictures today, so apparently surfing is hot or something. But this is where we were. We were having a really nice ride with our customers. We were a startup 13 years ago, and we wanted to work for high-tech companies all over the world. So I went to San Francisco, went to Japan and to China, because that's where these big tech players are. And we were doing actually really, really well. But at the same time, and I was sure, did anyone surf here before? So if you're in this position, would you feel comfortable? You're having a nice ride, certainly. But are you in control? There's a lot of water above your head here. And this is probably not going to end really, really nicely. It could end well, but the chances are also high that it's not going to end very well. So this is what it's about. We were having a really nice ride, but we discovered we were not really in control. So a little bit about Riscure. So like I said, startup 13 years ago. And we're doing security testing in a niche market. So not attacking internet systems, where we were focusing on hardware chips. Chips, high security chips, and mobile phones, in your like SIM cards, but also the pay TV technology is using secure chips, access control, the credit cards with the chip nowadays. So all those systems we focus on. We don't just attack the software on it, but we also attack the hardware. So we have microscopes and laser equipment, and we listen to the power consumption of a chip and figure out what the secret key inside is. So you think you're using RSA and you're good? Well, you can actually still leak the RSA key via a side channel like power consumption. So these are the things we do. It's a niche market. We got ourselves established, and actually, whilst doing all this kind of security testing, we also started offering side channel test equipment. So it's test equipment to do that kind of testing. And it's actually, back in 2005, one of our customers was MasterCard. They came to us and they said, "It's really, really nice work that you did for us in testing these chips and writing the beautiful report about what's good and what's bad about this chip. But can we use your tools to do it ourselves?" We thought about it for a week and we said, okay, that's fine. Because our mission was to share our expertise. Sharing it via testing, well, share it via our test equipment, share it via training. We said, we're not going to protect anything. We're here to share. Which was a bit unusual in the security world. All our competitors were saying, no, you come to us, we know all the tricks, and we give you reports, and that's how we protect our business case. So it was a little bit tricky. So test equipment, and we actually managed in a couple of years, which we never expected beforehand, but actually become market leader in this niche market. These are the type of products that we test, all high security equipment, high security chips. And this is the equipment that we make ourselves. We use it ourselves, so we have about 40, 50 people in the company that use it, so we have users. At the same time, we have a product, a tool department that actually makes this and sells it. So we make the hardware, we design it, and we make the software. And this is also where some of the challenges came in. Hardware, software, so it's the whole setup. And we're a small team. All right, so a few years ago, what did we struggle with? There are a few things. we had been making profit every year. So that was all beautiful. But what we did see, that sometimes, and I was CEO at the time of the company, halfway the year I could sometimes get a little bit nervous because the sales would like a toing and then quiet for a while and then a toing. So the services side was pretty stable, but the product side was pretty big sales, typically one time, because they're big companies. They really want to invest. They say, I want all the stuff, and then it was quiet for a while. And sometimes we were busy for 3 years or 2 years before we got a deal here. So for a small company, that was not always very comfortable. The other thing is, what I started noticing is that inside the company, in the team, there were lots of wishes from users. Inside the company, outside. Well, you all recognize it here. You get these really long discussions about what feature to work on. And I recognized that I never took part in those discussions, but I heard from the people doing it, they all got out of those discussions with low energy, like this. That's not a good sign. Although I had observed it, I didn't realize it was a real problem. I only realized this later. The other thing is, there was a lack of trust between the internal users and the developers. So we have these teams that were using it, and then we have the people making it. And somehow the communication between those two I saw was not going very well anymore. It was another problem. And we had no idea actually how to do product management. Aspects around product management, we were hackers, we were engineers, we were technical, we had a few sales guys, but really how to do product management, no idea. All right, so someone tipped me, said, read this book. So I read it 3 years ago. That's where I, for instance, recognized, oh, if you have very long feature discussions, there's not something going well. There's some solutions out there. So I got a lot of hints from this book. I spoke to a few people, to consultants, to the team. The whole team started reading this. Everybody got excited. We got a consultant in. There was a 3-week period that we booked for training. It's the kind of the design UX kind of training, design thinking, getting interview skills to work with users. So we did a lot of things there. So I was like, as a CEO at the time, I got really excited. I was like, wow, the team is on the right track. This is nice, beautiful. A few people did not fully participate in that training, though. But I didn't really take notice at the time. The team went on. I was at the time, as one of the owners of the company, I was involved in actually selling my shares. So I was a little bit distracted from day-to-day business. I'm the type of manager who's really hands-off. And I learned at the time that if you're really hands-off, you can be too hands-off as well. So the team got running with this, started improving things, but I wasn't really in touch, so I didn't really know what was going on, but I saw that people were excited. But what I did see a year later is that actually in the team, there were some really big conflicts that had risen throughout the year. Because part of the team was going into this change, but another part of the team was like, no, this is not how we should do it. So there ended up a lot of discussion on what's the best next step to take and how to deal with this. And this really got big between a few people. Actually, a few people left because of this. That's how I found out. The other thing is that there was a big new product, software product that we worked on, but it didn't actually meet the user expectations, and it got longer and longer and longer. Well, a typical IT project. But for a small company, working on something with a whole team on like a year and a half, and then not meeting user expectations, oh. So I pulled the plug there, basically, on that product. And then we had the sales in that same year, and it actually fell short of 1 million. So suddenly there was also a financial sign of things were not going well. Well, it's the bumpy sales that we're used to, but usually it would catch up, and this time it wouldn't. So we were on this lean startup. We were making progress, but things were actually looking worse than before. And we thought we were on the right track. So actually at the time, I wasn't really sure what to do, to be honest. But there was one thing. Somehow I did believe in the strategy. And I had the feeling there's better ways to deploy this. There's something not right here, although I didn't fully know what was right and what was wrong. I did get freed up from management responsibilities, which was really nice. The previous talk, when he said he could step out of the board and all these discussions, I actually stepped out of management at Riscure because there was a party that was buying my shares, and I got some more freedom. And they asked me, can you get involved here to help the team in making some of these changes? And there's a few things that I want to share that we did, which really, really helped. And the first thing is something I should have done 3 years ago, but I didn't realize I should have done it. And that is actually, we were from a small, you have this in small companies. You start and people have multiple roles. It was really time to separate a few roles, especially on the commercial side. Someone was responsible for product management and for sales. This guy was a really good sales guy, but he was not so good at product management. It's a different skill set. You know here, but it was really important. Get people in the position that they're good at. So we made several separations. This is all we did. And behind every little circle here, we made a description like this, what is what you're responsible for, nothing more. No detailed big documents, but a clear description. These are your core responsibilities, and this is how you interact with the others. We did this together with the team. So it's 25 people. Discuss this. That was very helpful. Product management was new. And I thought, okay, no one really wanted to take the product management role, so I said, I'll do that. I'm not a product manager. And we combined product management and product ownership because we're small. It was very much a product owner role that I took on at the time. That's when I reached out actually to Prowareness, to Hanneke, said help, because I've never had training, I don't know how to do product management, and we're going to change the team, and we're going to get it on the right track, but I need someone to help me. You know, I have ideas, but I have no experience. So that was an important first step. The second thing was actually, and this is really important, this is what I got from Lean Startup, is that, we're in a niche market. It's called sticky growth. You stick with your customers, and you do everything you do is focusing on those existing customers. Everything. So right away, we started with more calls, more interaction with the existing user base, whilst sales, for instance, was used to getting out to these new big contracts. They were busy with shows to attract new customers. And so we changed the road shows. We said, okay, not those shows anymore, but you go do your visits to customers. And it sounds small and very logical, but it's just, we didn't really do that at the time. And because our customers are all over the world, it does take a bit of effort. It's not just driving half an hour and you're there. No, you need to actually book a road show in China to all sorts of places, because 30% of our customer base is in China. And the rest is spread out through the US. So that took quite some effort and also some budget, so some decisions there. No new big projects is another one I want to highlight. We learned there is do it incremental. Start small. So we just had one of those big projects. Don't do it anymore until we're good at this. Key learnings, users told us, please do some more bug fixing and usability fixes. We really like your stuff, but it's just sometimes it needs some tweaking, and then it's really useful. Oh, okay.
It was real hacked stuff.
Yes. The other thing is, please give me more automation. And we were in high-tech new attacks. They said, no, make my work easier, please, because attacking these chips is really complex. So please automate my work. Okay. The other thing is we learned our funnel was too wide, typical problem, loads of feature requests, not knowing what to do. And then our business model. I noticed with our commercial people, and I'll let you go, with our commercial people, actually, it took a lot of effort to get them to talk to existing customers. And every time they would do it for a while, and then they would revert back again. But the incentives were not there. Because our typical customers, really big organizations, big CapEx, they said, no, I want to buy everything and not have this annual. But we needed an annual relationship with our customers. So the sales guys had real difficulty staying in touch because there was a little bit to sell, But if someone comes around and says, no, that's a contract for 800,000 instead of 20,000, it's a different story.
Yeah, the model was based on sales and not on account management.
Yeah, absolutely. So, quick question? Yeah, the weekly sync, with CXC, customer experience team. So we realized that having a sync up with them on a really regular basis it got us so much information, because they were actually the only ones who still really knew how they were doing. But we lost that touch. They were doing great work, but by themselves. And it's the typical feedback into product management, and the development team was just not, it was there, but it was not in a structural way, so we were missing out on a lot of things there. Yeah. Alrighty, the other thing is engineering changes. Quite a few changes there. I'm not going to tell them all, but one to highlight I really thought. We said developers must start enjoying the interaction with users. Well, you probably know, we all have it. You make something as an engineer, or a lean startup, you have a hypothesis, and you say, okay, this is what I think is good for you. And I don't like this. What happens inside you? Which is normal, but how do you deal with that? That's the big question. We all have this a little bit like this.
You make the perfect product, right?
Yeah, we actually did have a few developers when we said, you must start liking this. They said, I'll go work somewhere else. Literally. So this is going to be important in the next few years, that you're comfortable to talk to end users about what you're thinking. And they said, no, I just want to sit here behind my screen and do my thing. And this is one of the reasons why the previous run failed. Because engineers went into the training, but were never really asked, do you really enjoy this kind of thing? And if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it. You know about those skills, and you heard about it, and you practice them, but in real life, you're going to typically fall back to your old behavior again. So this is where it was hard to make progress. So the other thing is we had a separate hardware and software team, which for the end user, it was really hard to figure out when things were, when there was a problem. Is it a software problem, hardware problem? End user doesn't care. So we were too small to have separate teams. So to have one team made a huge difference internally. Suddenly, the hardware people felt responsible for the user interface. Oh, they didn't before. We started experimenting, but because our customers start experimenting with a customer in China, and we don't have an online environment, so it's offline, it's just not so easy in terms of communication. So we said, let's first with some internal users and start experimenting. The interesting thing is this already changed our mindset. So even though they were not always representative, it already made a big change in how we started approaching new things and made it a lot easier to reach out to some, in this case, we used a few American and European customers to work with and do lean startup experiments. Which is, it's early stage, you don't know really what you're making, and you're doing this interview over a conference call. So it's not easy. It's not easy. Our Scrum, we thought it was pretty okay. Well, Hanneke explained, a lot of things were broken. Actually, a lot of our experienced engineers had left. Some people that are very good at security and especially talking to end users and felt comfortable, they stayed, but they were not very knowledgeable on Scrum. So a lot of things to fix there. I'm still not an expert in this area. I think some of you know a lot more about this, but there was a lot of things to fix there. Important was a big cleanup. It was very messy. So many feature requests from past years, etc. Alrighty, then we had one code base, is to mention. In order for a lean startup and your experiments to work, you want to try different stuff and be pretty quick if something works to integrate. We had ended up with different code bases internally. So we had internal people, users, experimenting with stuff and doing prototyping, which was really cool stuff, but to port it across to the commercial version was hairy. So for us, this was a really big lesson. We have to fix this. And the reason I mention it here, because it's painful to fix.
Yeah,
this is not nice.
It gave me nightmares, basically.
We had endless discussions. was also resistance internally. No. This works for us. This is your thing, and just to get to this common goal here was a big challenge. But you're biting the bullet. We're almost done now. And it's energized everyone that we're back to one code base. So it's really good. Alrighty, this one. I don't often make bold statements, but you said, okay, let's stop. No feature changes, no new features without user validation. It's very simple, but it's so easy to tweak something small. And then say, well, it's probably fine. But we need to stop this. Really helped. All right, then the process. I'm not going to discuss the whole process here. I just want to show you visualizing helps. That's what I learned. It's not what we started with. We started with something very simple, very small. But in the end, we got to these 5 phases. We also struggled a bit with, we do hardware, we do software, and they really follow a different pace. Initially, I thought, okay, they need different processes, but things get too complex. So we came back to simple, okay, you have problems, you validate your problem first, then you step to your solution, you validate it. Well, early adopters you work with, and then you actually complete your commercial offer. And for us, there was actually a lot of work here also on getting the hardware stuff ready, because you need to work with suppliers and get PCBs in a certain manufacturing mode, etc. And then at the end, we have a year where we actually learn. We say scale and adjust, and especially learning about from people using it and give it a special mode. Especially our hardware guys needed number 5. The software guys don't need 5 in our case, because they're used to changes there. The hardware guys need it, because they said, well, I'm done, and it's there. And they got very confused that now we're very sharp on, there's something small which is not working fine, so let's tune it. But tuning something in the hardware takes effort. You need to talk to suppliers. So we said, we give it a separate phase, so we all know we're going to adjust here and be sharp for the feedback from users. This is what I personally like the most on what we are doing now, and that's this enlargement. Are you familiar with Lean Canvas? Most of you here? And actually, this helps the team a lot. And even I get confused sometimes, but it's like picking. So you always, when you start with a new product, you try to do your whole Lean Canvas. We all know this. You try to see the bigger picture. But at the same time, it's what do you focus on at what point in time? And this is very helpful to say, you can think about the bigger picture. Please do it. But you're in phase 1. So what you really need to get right with talking to your users is in this case, the problem. And know what customer segments you're targeting. Well, etc. So this, for the team and also for myself, been very helpful. And another thing we did, which was very necessary, is actually integrating Lean Startup into Scrum. And there's not so much out there yet. This is a part that actually also Hanneke and I, we're still looking for best ways. Now what we did here is actually we have epics. There's a Kanban board with epics. And actually we made a special field in the epics that if you call it an experiment epic, then it shows up on the board here. It gives me some flexibility. Sometimes I have epics that are not really worth seeing here. Gets too much. So here we see more of the new products, the bigger epics. And we split it. We have a hardware lane that typically goes a bit slower, and we have a software lane. So that's how we separate these. This was really necessary.
There was a big problem in integrating hardware, software, and Lean Startup, and normal work, and operation work, all into one workflow. Because when you're working as a Scrum team, you want to have it all on one board. So that's a lot of experimenting we did. And Jira is very flexible, so it was sort of possible to make a custom flow in there.
We're almost there. This is the part that I realized. Initially, we just had this. It's not enough. We all forget. What is phase 1 again? What is phase 2? Which product is in which phase? A month ago, it was in phase this. Did it move to the next gate? There's too much going on. We forget. And so we're putting it on a big wall now. It's going to be a huge wallpaper, and we're going to put the post-its with the products on there. And actually, you would like to visualize also, you see, these are circles. These are the build, measure, learn circles. So we can actually say we're now here, we're building for this, and we can even move it inside the circle. So I don't know if it works, but well, it works actually at Prowareness. That's where I saw it.
It works at
So I thought,
Prowareness
let's
and some
copy
other
it.
places.
Yeah. This is not my slide.
I think this is mine. When I got into Prowareness, into Riscure, I had my first impressions of the company, which was about this. We have a serve dude as a product manager. That was the first thing I saw. Then I came in and I saw electronic toys stacked up to the ceiling everywhere, which was kind of not the office I'm used to come into. That was an interesting one. I tripped over one of those pallet trucks when I come in first time. And then it was hard passing the kitchen because they've got 2 ladies there that cook marvelously every day. So that was really nice. That was my first impression of Riscure. And my conclusion was, I'm going to love this job. Because I'm a technician myself, I love building stuff with electronics, so hey, it couldn't get better than that. It beats a financial institution for me, let's put it that way. So, can I? Oh yeah, you're going. Good. So, a number of things that I noticed when I got in there, and they are overlapping with what he already said. So, I saw a lot of pressure to start delivering to clients because their sales were going down. I saw a tooling that was totally messed up and not workable anymore. A funnel that was really wide. And the problem with that was, if the funnel is wide and there's still something coming out of the end, that's pretty okay. But there was not much coming out of the end anymore. So that didn't help. It completely clogged up, basically. Focus and priorities, they were going all over the place. So as well as product, as focus for a team, as focus on which things should go out of the backlog. It was a bit of a chaotic place. Now, I already talked about the code bases. It kept me awake at night because I had a lot of discussions with their engineer. I'm having a technical background, so I had some knowledge on that, how we could manage to move that to one code base. Because there was so much history in there, with branches going off in that direction from the different code bases, it was a nightmare. But after 1.5 years, I think we're getting there now. And we had only the basic knowledge of Scrum and Lean Startup. And on top of that, they sort of started doing their own thing with that. So that also didn't sort of help. What I did see, though, was something that's also rare in a lot of companies. I saw a real motivation for change, wanting to change it. The team was changed. So there are people in there that were actually looking forward to working in this way. There were no taboos. There's no hidden areas within Riscure, except for the places where I can't go for my security clearance. But except for that, everything could be touched. They were always open for anything changes, no matter what. There was a financial need for change. That also helps, usually. And they were hands-on. So nobody was saying, yeah, that's not my job, or I don't do that. And that's the advantage of being in a startup, contrary to a larger company. People are still used to having different roles in there. And then we had an ambassador for change. I'm sorry, this is really hard, this thing at the right distance. He was an ambassador for change, so he really wanted to push the thing. And that helps a lot, as you know, with all kinds of transitions. If you have somebody out there that is actually driving it, it helps so much. Can you? So I also had to look at, this is like a very crude way of flattening it, because there's many details of it. But when
so this feels like an exam now. Huh?
Yeah, I'm sorry for that, but we talked about that, so I could do it. So when I'm looking at it now, we're still not where I would go. So if we're looking at the first 5, which are, let's say, the principles of Lean Startup, the fact that there are entrepreneurs anywhere, that's a fact within Riscure. Because everybody has great ideas, knows their profession very well, get everything from the customer. So that thing is going really well in Riscure. That has the side effect that you need to do something with that, which means that you need to manage it. That's still not where it should be. There's a lot of work to be done. And what we notice is when we start there the first year, what I ended up doing a lot is operational stuff, getting the basic stuff in place. So we didn't even get around really to work on Lean Startup. We actually started fixing a lot of other stuff that goes around it. And we did implement some basic principles, but not everything. So the management still needs to go into the mindset further. And validated learning is something that's even a harder step for Riscure, because they have a very narrow customer base. they're very difficult to reach. So on one hand, it's easy because they can clearly appoint value to the changes they make. On the other hand, how do they have to find that value is very hard with your customers being all over the world and not being able to test very well on that. So that's, for me, also a very large challenge to get that done. And that same goes for innovation accounting. It goes together. Build, measure, and learn is in place, but still in sort of a basic loop. So we need to improve on that now. So what we've done now is we have separated the coaching of the teams from the actual coaching of the Lean Startup. We have put a expert program in place where I'm there 2 times a month, and we're just going really like training sessions on topics of Lean Startup. So we're trying to take it up a next step, so that there's not only operational stuff in there, but also some strategic learning. The lower 4 are relating to the 4 squares, 4 circles that we shown before. This problem validation, that's with a lot of companies a problem, because they tend to go straight to the solutions. And if you have a club of hackers, I can tell you solutions are there. But you need to know why you're hacking it. You can hack because it's fun, because you can do it. It's like the little advertisement on television, right? Not because you have to, but because you can do it, for those that are Dutch here. Niet omdat het moet, maar omdat het kan. Put it that way. But you need to know why you're doing it. That's why the funnel was that wide. You need to have a reason, you need to have a problem that you're solving with it. Fitting a problem to a solution that they have, because you can't, with security chips, if you're not locking 2 together, it doesn't work, basically. And selling it in the market, yes. But the business model validation, we already talked about that, that still also needs some further tuning. So that's what we will be doing the coming year, I suppose, that we agreed. See if we can take it to a next level, which will make Lean Startup there even more. And I think one of the biggest challenges we're having there right now is the hardware-software combination, to get that done in the right way. Because there's not much experience with Lean Startup and hardware-software combination in the market at the moment, so we're sort of finding it out while we're going along. I think it's up to you again.
Yeah, so the key learnings to take away for myself, just to share here, is that the really all different aspects needed to get touched. And initially we started too much from an engineering development team perspective. And didn't recognize that how big the commercial part actually, how important that is in Lean Startup. So not everyone was sufficiently tuned in. So you mentioned already, really have someone driving, and I would say here, this is the product owner track. You're in the right seat there, if you're there to drive this. It really, you can make a difference, because you are that spider already. And it is touching on all these different aspects. Of course, you need a lot of help. And especially if you're product owner in the let's say the pure sense, you need, especially from the commercial side, you need the support there. In my case, I was product manager, product owner, so I could do both, and that helped me just to go fast, basically. But it's really critical. So if it comes too much from one angle, also I've seen it, if it comes too much from the commercial angle, be wary as well, because you really need your engineers to go into validating things with your end users, which requires a skill set and a willingness and knowing why do we do this. Still, we often fall back. Remember to like, oh no, I'll make something first before I check it. We keep doing it. So the other thing is our business model, and a word here on the business, it was misaligned with sticky growth. And now I look back, I was thinking like, oh, of course. But it was historically how we grew. You know, when you get your first customers and they want to buy a lot of equipment, you just, you tell them, oh, this is the price. But we really need to get into this more recurring model, into a training model, into we help you further model. So actually, just to share, a Lean Startup is a lot about validating assumptions, your riskiest assumption. Well, one of our assumptions is that in the Chinese market, it's all about CAPEX. They don't like OPEX. Operational expenses are difficult. We saw it with the support contract we have, which is a small portion, but every time it was difficult. It was an assumption. Now, I heard from last week, well, I'm not with the company anymore, but I still heard that now the first customer on a new product to buy into it. So they have just said yes to a recurring licensing model. So an annual subscription is a Chinese company.
So there's a large celebration going on because we actually managed
So
to do it.
this is really good news. We know in the US we can get there, but now it's like, can we get Chinese customers? And it's 30% of our customers are. So this is again a sign that, well, be wary of what your assumptions are, but also really go out in the trickiest situation to validate it. Because if we would have failed in the Chinese market with any of this, we could better stop it and think of something else. So this is really, really nice.
If you pick the easiest things to test, it ain't gonna help you any further.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, the other thing we did, which I think is very important, there's now a product manager at Riscure who's very experienced. He knows about product management. That's one of the things we realized, that yes, I can bring change, I can motivate, I can get things into movement, but I don't have 5 or 10 years of experience here, and it really helps if you bring that in. So we finally got someone on board who's now also working with Hanneke to do this. And the other thing I want to mention here is that this lean hypothesis type of thinking is not to be underestimated. When you read it, it's logical, but how many people have practiced it here, actually, in the companies? Yeah. Is that also your experience? It's easy to fall back, especially for people with engineering background. Yeah. Nodding here. Yeah. So it takes a discipline. I know discipline is not always a nice word, but it really takes discipline and an open feedback culture to tell each other, oh, wait a second, you're going too fast again. It's something you have to keep on reminding each other, including yourself.
Yeah, on top of that, it's of course hard to test something and deliver something that according to your technical heart is not the perfect product.
Yeah. Right, a couple of things, and then we're going to finish off here. A few things that we're working on to improve, so we're far from done, absolutely. Which interesting thing is, we're really back on track, which is nice, but at the same time, there's loads of stuff to do. Hardware, mentioned already. Really keep searching for the quickest way, and then this mindset change is not to build and learn, but first know what you want to learn, and then build for that. Yeah, we only succeed in this once in a while. Often we still build something small, and I think, what is it what we want to learn now when we show it to a user? No, go back. First, what do I want to learn? And then build something really very small. Mock-up, whatever. It's huge in practice as a mindset change. Tracking the experiment results, we struggle a bit with. We have a Jira, we have this, we have intranet, we have so how, where, easy way that you can find it back, but not over-documented. You have a conference call. It's a struggle. It's a struggle. We need to find a solution for that this year. Innovation accounting was mentioned already, and the 5 why analysis we apply, so the root cause analysis, has been really helpful, but we've applied it maybe 10, 12 times in a year. I think we can do it more often. It's helpful. It's helpful. It's easy to forget. All right, so where are we now? We're still on a nice wave, and we're still making really nice, like, it's all about the experience, of course. But the big difference now is that we really see that we are in control. We're back in control. We're not perfect yet, but we see now that when we fail early. And that's important. When we bring out something, we learn from the customer, And the quicker you know when you're on the wrong track, really good. Whereas, well, we've also built hardware products in the past. Really cool attack. But then we found out that, the world is not so worried about this attack. And we made this beautiful hardware product. We could have found out in 4 weeks' time, just talking to people. Instead of working for half a year. So we're back in control, and that's really nice. We're still market leader in this area, so the 2-3 years that we struggled in a sense, well, no one caught up. So I think we're in a very good position to continue this for the next 20 years. And, it's just really awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Hanneke.
Any questions?
Thank you, Harko and Hanneke. One of the things what I understood from your story with the lean startup is focus on product development and having a product manager, talking to customers, asking why, understanding how. What did you really use to change that mindset of the people within your company?
What really helped is to bring up examples where we failed. This hardware product that we made all the way now, and then discussing with each other, think back about the situation. How could you have learned in a more early stage that this was not the right product to make?
We did a lot of postmortems, for one thing.
Retrospectives?
Well, yeah, but not in an official sense, very informal. When you see people forget or you don't know, you just keep reminding each other, why are we doing this? I noticed that the why, which is classic in change management, so also what went wrong in the first year, there was no one who kept reminding the team on the why. And initially the whole team says, yes, we're going in for a big change. But after 3 months, you see that there's a few people that are not on track anymore. And that's often my experience is that you forget about the why. It's not that you don't want to do it, but you don't realize anymore why you are, what you want to improve. And I've noticed that I sometimes even got a little bit tired. I'm good at repeating things, but I got a little bit tired myself. Like after 1 year even, that I would find myself in a position that when I ask someone, say, so why are we doing this? The person wasn't able to answer. So the repeating the why thing was critical. With examples, of course, going back into history.
So what we did, we started sort of a strategic coaching. So I came there 2 times a month. And we did like assignments kind of coaching. So they had to find us some stuff. We had a 4-hour session, talking it over, reminding them of the things going wrong, and then talk about where to change it. That's another way of changing a mindset. You can be there over a longer period of time, repeating the same thing at a certain interval helps.
And what really helped me in this case in working is that I was of course on the floor every day, but I didn't know. I had ideas and I had a direction, but how to execute, I struggled because I didn't have the experience. And this was where my sessions with Hanneke were very helpful, who had the experience, had done it before. And so I could say, last week I had this discussion with the development team or with the commercial team. I think this is what we should do, but I'm a little bit hesitating now. And then this would help to say, no, I've seen it here and here and here. But just keep going. And so that would give me the confidence to go back into the arena and say, okay, we continue. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes,
yeah?
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Excellent catch.
Okay, thank you, Harko. I was wondering, one part of the company is making these products, and that is where the story is about. Are there things in this story which you use or can apply on the other part where you have provided services?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Certainly. Actually, one of the things that came out of this was we set up a training academy, because initially we just trained companies to work with the products when they started, and we saw that now later on they need advice, they need more training at more advanced level, and the training academy has adopted it in terms of when there's a new training, how to validate if it's a good training. Mm-hmm. So that's where it's catching on. On the services side, it's a little bit mixed in that, in a sense, we've worked with our services very much one-to-one basis with our customers. You want it this way? We provide it this way. So there's less need there because you're really in touch. You're making it almost specifically for this customer. Yeah. But actually the step now to productize your services, which is what we're doing, and not to skip this kind of learning method is what's going to be the next step there. So they're looking at this. For certain areas, it's already very custom, so it's not adding much value. But where we want to productize our services, this is very helpful. Yeah, but we haven't applied it yet.
Okay.
Okay, last question.
Yeah.
There was one question over there.
Could you give us some examples of whys you were having within the company?
Yes. One is big software project that failed. Why does it fail at such a late stage? That's why. Very simple. Secondly, why we're in a niche market, so it's all about sticky growth. So why is our commercial model not tuned into this? We are doing one-time sales, so the whole commercial team is running after these big new contracts, whilst our survival long-term is in sticking with our existing customers. That's another one. Another thing was why do we have so much difficulty in feature prioritization? So we haven't found the right method. It's not that users are completely different, but we haven't found an efficient method to work on this. And if you make that easy and easier, and now actually the team feels very light about this, it's not a difficult thing anymore. It makes a huge difference, especially for a development team.
Yeah, so stakeholder management was an issue there.
Yeah. So these are just 3 examples.
Okay, Hanneke, Harko, thank you very much for being here. A round of applause for them, please. You'll be sticking around for some questions later?
For the next 15 minutes, then I need to go.
Okay, excellent. So you have 15 minutes to ask them to find out the other questions. They didn't want any wine, so that's the reason why I'm not giving a gift. Therefore, a handshake from me. Thank you very much, Hanneke and Harko. And enjoy your day. Thank you very much. I will see you in 10 minutes.